though, so that's actually like
Yeah.
you're down south. What?
I'm about an hour from
Oh,
Savannah.
Hang on, Pastor.
okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, family, friends, patriots all over our country that is under God. Welcome to tonight's Red America First Town Hall, the nation's most engaging platform where we, the people, run the show. Red for the blood of Christ, America First policies and candidates. And I'm your host, Ashley Wise. Thank you all for coming tonight. Welcome to Hashtag Town Hall by Red America First, where the spirit of our nation's founders meets the challenges of tomorrow. For 3 years, we draped and stood as a beacon of unity and strength, draped in the symbolic red of our conviction, dedicated to Red America First policies and the Christian values that our nation was founded on. Here we gather not just to discuss, but to act, empower our communities through education, engagement, and the relentless pursuit of truth. We're igniting the conversations that matter. We're at the forefront of a movement to ensure a free, prosperous, and vibrant future for all Americans.
And I'm your co-host, Valerie Weiss. Tonight we have a double header. First, we are excited to have Maryam Henein. She is an investigative journalist, filmmaker, and founder of Honey Colony, which I think that's amazing, an online health and wellness magazine. With a career spanning over 2 decades, she is known for her fearless pursuit of truth. Tonight, we highlight her powerful documentary, The Death of George Floyd, The Real Timeline, which offers a thought-provoking investigation into the events surrounding this pivotal case. Then at 10 p.m., we will be having Robert Kraft with Our United Republic. We will be discussing Trump's tariffs and the dissolution of the United States America Incorporated. Do not forget to join us on for Pastor's Point every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Pastor's Point's goal is to share the gospel of Jesus and grow in the knowledge of the Word of God and encourage all to adhere to biblical principles.
Here on Hashtag Town Hall, we have several episodes lined up next Thursday. We'll have John Stubbins the following week, July 3rd. We're going to have Richard Gage and so many more coming in July. Those viewers, please go to redamericafirst.com. We're looking for more state panel members to join. Tell us what's going on in your state. Again, redamericafirst.com and join. And those who want to help support our mission, even $20 will help our national mission. Go to givesendgo.com/redamericafirst/donate. Thank you all. So we're going to get into prayer, Pledge of Allegiance, and then the national anthem. Always we start with prayer, so we're going to call on Dr. Aaron Gray. He is the host of Pastor's Point, and he's going to lead us into prayer tonight. Thank you in advance, Dr. Gray. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, Lord Jesus, we just come before your throne today. We thank you for all you've done. We thank you for the very fact that we live in a country where we can come together, unite in fellowship, searching out common goals, Father, and just desiring the best for the people of this nation. So we come together, Lord. We ask you that you lead us and you guide us today, Lord, as we seek the truth. Let your light, let your voice, your truth lead us, Father, because you are the only truth. As your word says, you are the way, the truth, the life. And so we cling to you in that, Father. And I ask you, Lord, that is your words that are spoken tonight, Father, and your truth that is sought, Lord. And let all of us cling and desire you more and more each and every day, Father, that what we have is, and what we desire, and what we move forward is not something that is counter to you, but something that promotes you, that pushes you, that promotes your kingdom, the kingdom of heaven. In this we holy and precious name of Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for that, Doctor. Now we're going to get Valerie up here. She will do the Pledge of Allegiance. Valerie is co-founder of Red America First. Thank you in advance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that, Valerie. Naomi, South Carolina, is going to do the national anthem for us tonight. Thank you so much, doll. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
What a good job, Naomi. Thank you. That was very beautiful. Good job
Thank
tonight.
you.
So, what a wonderful way to start this interview tonight with Maryam. So let's get her up here with us and unmute her as well. So, Maryam, thank you for coming on. Before we start the interview, tell us a little bit about you. Where are you from? Where did you grow up? How did you get in this position that you're in? And then we're open to the idea of sharing the video to your movie, so that we got the trailer ready, so we could do that too. But thank you for coming on Town Hall. Red America
Thank you
First
for
tonight.
having me.
Yeah.
The fact that you haven't heard of me is a testament of the censorship. I'm an award-winning journalist. I directed Vanishing of the Bees, which was #1 in this entire country. I hail from Montreal, Canada, and I was living in California for 23 years. And when I became a second-class citizen, I fled to Florida. I've been covering vaccines since 2012. So when the Rona regime happened, I went to Costa Rica. And I was with Zach Voorhees, the Google whistleblower there. And he told me to choke him the day that George Floyd died, and told me he was doing the George Floyd challenge. So I was literally the first journalist to call the medical examiner. I have reverse lupus. I'm 52 years old. I'm a functional medicine coach, and I'm a legend in my own right. I've been banned on Venmo, Vimeo, PayPal, GoFundMe, Instacart, Airbnb. I've been debanked. I've been smeared on national television, and I've had the government come after me twice. The first time was for being one of the first to sell CBD in 2016, before everyone and their mother started selling crap CBD. And under the Rona regime, the FDA, FTC, DOJ launched Operation Quack Hack, and they came after me for using the word prevention in the same sentence as coronavirus. So I usually cover Honey Colonies, a health magazine and marketplace that's been in the health space way before many people that have joined since the Rona regime to profit. And I'm authentic, and that is become rare.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. I love your background. It's amazing. We're excited to have you on.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah. So your book suggests George Floyd's death was part of a multi-layered psychological operation. Can you walk us through the key evidence that led you in this conclusion and how it differs from the story most Americans were told?
Sure. Well, this is a 688-page book that I doubt anyone else on the planet could write, that I was commissioned for the future, because the Ministry of Truth is vaporizing our history. So, it's a multi-layered psyop. The whole operation is a multi-layered psychological operation. It served many purposes. It helped us go from virus to violence overnight, where we woke up and now we were living with systemic racism when this has nothing to do with race. And they used this operation to get more vaccines into the arms of the vaccine hesitant population, Black people. They also used this to usher a color revolution. This was also the duty to intervene exercise. So it's very multi-layered, like a Russian doll.
Yeah. I
Wow.
can see that for sure. I mean,
You've uncovered some surprising connections, like cartel involvement and informants. Could you share what you found most shocking during your investigation and how these elements might have shaped the events of May of 2020? Because here on our platform, we like to share what we believe are false flags and things that are really spun up and created events. And we believe George Floyd was one of those. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. You have to wonder why an award-winning real journalist with a degree is only selling her book and movie on her website, MaryamHenein.com/George Floyd book. Like I had $1 million company. I was just infiltrated by Procter and Gamble is the latest. So people know out there, they know who's not jib-jabbed, and they know the people who are here to galvanize and wake up others with truth. So I didn't know what I was going to find. And it's very convenient to torch the whole country. And in Minnesota specifically, I work also with hunches. I'm very deep and detailed, and that's where the devil is. May I remind everyone? So there was Mexican cartel Sinaloa, and I don't think people know that George Floyd was a truck driver. I don't know that people know that Derek Chauvin had a tax evasion case. So I didn't know that.
no.
We don't really even know, why is it that me, the B lady, that's what I go by, am the only one on the planet that has access to the guy that stabbed Derek? Why am I not on Fox News? Can I not string a sentence together?
Right. No.
It's been a year and a half. And nobody knows the details.
Right.
But I do.
Yeah. Well, they don't want you on there because they don't tell the truth anyway, right? So
that's right. And that's why the Mexican cartel leader who admitted he read my book. He has a lot of time on his hands. He's been in jail for 30 decades. The truth is he's an FBI informant gone rogue, and he's an embarrassment to the FBI. So they don't want that to bring to light. And we found each other. So it's amazing that it's not coming out to light. It's been a year and a half.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can help get your word out about your book for sure. It seems you faced, well, that's what we were just talking about, significant pushback for questioning the mainstream account, or what they're saying about the George Floyd incident. And so your challenges that you were censored and all that kind of stuff. Just by social media, is it helping you any, or is it, where do you find your
people have gotten back their channels? I have a degree, I who can say that they had directed a #1 movie in this entire country? And French is my first language. It's not even English. So I shine too bright, and I didn't know that the truth was dangerous, and I can actually inspire people. So it's not only the algorithms, it's my livelihood, getting infiltrated by a big pharmaceutical because I have a heart, and I was busy putting this out. This is 4 years, this squirreling, what sacrifice. And when I was finished, I was told, you passed, you graduated, you were assigned to like a record keeper to understand the inverted matrix, and you didn't pour out your soul. Because what just happened, it's one thing if you took the jab and you've realized and you've made amends and you've repented because this was a test, or, it's fine. We all learn from our mistakes. We're human. But it's another thing. In one reality right now, this bioweapon is being described as miraculous. But in another reality, it's killed more people than all wars put together. Like, that's quite the vast difference, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, immediately we knew, not just our discernment was to not take it. And then that's kind of when we decided that we were going to spread the word on our show too. So we get that with that.
Yeah, my dad worked for Pfizer. He's a retired mechanical engineer, and he's a Christian, and he's disowned me and not talked to me for 4 years. Instead of being so proud that so I am really a lone wolf, and I've stood for others. And now most people, I'm sorry, people are realizing that there's like nobody home. Transhumanist is the agenda, folks.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And
Well, you can be a part of our wolf pack.
yeah, you definitely can be. You described Floyd's death as a sparkling, like a color revolution. From your perspective, how has this event and the response to it changed the fabric of America's society, especially in terms of the vision or policy shift?
Well, I believe that today we're glorifying criminals and we're imprisoning God-loving human beings, and that we toppled down statues. We could argue that that history wasn't true either, but we were creating divide, right? On one end, there's racism, and then on the other, there's reform going on, and the same thing is happening, the same playbook we're watching in Los Angeles. It's like a Summer of Love sequel in a lot of ways, with the same tactics. And it's like, maybe I can say certain things, although I've been called a white supremacist, because I'm brown, like, and there are a lot of Black people who know this was BS. A lot of them, it's like, this story has zero to do with racism. That's the crazy thing. And people do not, this was also a duty to intervene exercise. We all saw Event 201. You could all go and see Bill Gates's book, where there's a chapter called Practice, 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 where he outlines the different exercises. And some are very real, and sometimes things happen. They compartmentalize people in these operations, so people don't know the full scope. And I interviewed the boy who took the 20. I befriended Maurice Lester Hall, who nobody seems to care about his Black life, because they promised to make him a key witness. And then they trudged up all his 2018 charges, and he's spending 15 years in prison. I called Benjamin Crump. You think Benji cares about Maurice? He's an ambulance chasing shyster.
Wow.
So those that are watching live stream, we're getting ready to open up Q&A to all of our other panel members here on Town Hall. We're national, so we have people in Hawaii and other states as well. Go ahead, Valerie. Thank you.
So your work is dedicated to future generations seeking truth. What do you want readers to take away from Operation George Floyd, and how can ordinary people start digging deeper into these kinds of stories themselves?
Well, I believe, the book shows how you make the sausage. So once you learn how to make the sausage, you could see these tactics. And it is for the future records, for anyone that cares for the truth. And I believe I was chosen because it's a very thorough, it's like a deep state whodunit thriller. So I hope people will check out the work. I was hoping to show the trailer because there's like
I'm gonna try to bring it up. Hang on a second.
Let's do it.
It's you don't have to play it all because this is an extended screener. You could stop it. I don't know if you have 3 minutes.
Okay, let me try that. Hang on a second. So audience, we're going to try to play this video for 3 minutes, and I'll share my.
I'd be curious to your feedback once you watch it.
Yeah, sure. We'll see if I could even pull this off. All right, let's see if we can do it. I don't want to annotate. Stop. Move that out of the way. It's in my way.
Okay. Did it go?
No, here we go. All right, it's playing, I think.
Yeah.
Freedom of speech, son. Don't touch him. I got this all on camera. Watch out. Don't touch me.
Third precinct is up in flames. We begin with breaking news in South Minneapolis.
Caught on tape, a black man pinned to the ground, later dying after a white officer kneeled on his neck.
It started with a report of a forgery in progress and ended with Floyd's death.
The situation has become volatile at the 3rd Police Precinct tonight.
As police officers and protesters clash over a man's death.
Miles from Minneapolis, anger, frustration pouring into the streets of America.
I can't breathe!
It all stems from this video.
What we saw was he can be heard on the video saying, "I can't breathe."
Police officers involved have all been terminated.
It's in your hands.
You can ask Mr. Adams about me, y'all. Man, I'm scared as fuck, man. If I start breathing, it's gonna go out on me. I can't choke. I can't breathe without it.
That's my ex. He got a thing going on. I'm telling you about the police. He have problems.
He's not moved, not one time, bro.
He's off track right now.
But yeah, bro, go back in the store.
What happened to him?
Fucked up. All right.
They fucked him up.
He took your ID? Yeah.
So what happened? More drama at Cup Foods?
Cup Foods, yeah. It was just a forgery report. The person that had given him a fake bill, we went over there and yeah.
It's a bunch of stuff going on. That boy there became $1 billion daily household.
The media purposely left a lot on the proverbial cutting room floor in order to manipulate your emotions and perceptions of this event, manufacture a race war, and burn the country down. My aim was simple: take all the footage and place it back in.
Wow, that's a very good intro there to that.
Very good.
Thank you.
Now
Yes.
that's going to open up Val to her.
Well, we kind of went over. We were kind of discussing the LA riots. I wanted to hear what your perspective of that would be. Like, you think it's like the same kind of playbook, like you said, that they're in LA.
You know, the Derek Chauvin trial, the amount of surveillance that occurred, just like with J6, I was in Rudy Giuliani's hotel room, by the way. I gave him footage. Nobody knows that story because it's also censored, but I was at the deadly insurrection and I saw the live action role play with my own eyes.
Right.
In any case, so what's similar is that they're justifying, like in Florida, I don't drive, but I learned that now you can't hang something from the rear view mirror. So people don't see, you know, the book has ties to Tavistock and explains Tavistock is the lie factory and how the agenda is brought in incrementally. So we're all in our digital hamster wheels. The economy is, you know, people are struggling, and it is still a communist agenda, but it's also a fascist agenda.
Yeah. We see it also, don't you? I mean, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, we're gonna get our first question all the way from Ohio. Rob, Ohio, thanks for your question, and we'll see who's gonna go after Rob. Thank you guys. Let's get this Q&A going. We got 34 minutes with her, so let's get this going. Thank you so much.
Hi, Maryam. Thank you for being here. Your qualifications are extraordinary. I've got to do some exploring on your background, but I don't want to exactly go into Floyd yet, but being from Montreal, how do you feel about Canada? Do you think they're beyond hope?
I haven't been back since the Rona. My mom is vaccine injured. My stepdad is vaccine injured. I warned them because I left for Costa Rica before the country 6 days because I'm in the future and I've been covering jabs, vaccines, medical freedom since 2012. And my mom was like, Mary, just you can come in quarantine and just wear a face mask. I'm like, Mommy, I'm not doing that. I'm not staying in one of those hotels. I had to have surgery and I ended up getting nostril raped. And so I don't know, it's sad. Canada's a beautiful country. And I would like to see my mom again. I hear my dad is in Fort Lauderdale, but like I said, he hasn't spoken to me. And when I reached out, he said that he wasn't ready to reconcile. But he's 80 and he's a Christian. One of those hypocritical Christians, no shortage.
Well, question on Floyd. Do you think the people that censored the full tape, I've seen the full tape from when he was first put in the back of the car saying he couldn't breathe there either, without the knee on his neck even.
Yeah, it's all in my
think
movie. I bought
there
all
should
the
be
footage. Sorry.
Do you think that they should be arrested? Because I guess the officer is up for a retrial now that all this is coming out.
Who, Derek?
Yeah, the officer that was
We don't
sent to
even
prison.
know if Derek is alive. I shared before that I'm the only one who's speaking to the Mexican cartel leader who stabbed him. And John Tursak, and you could find my stories on my Substack, maryamhenein.substack. It's the only place you'll find the truth about who John Tursak is. And 60 Minutes and Fox wanted a exclusive this last Black Friday, and he would only talk to me, and I ordered a burger that week, and I got a burger with a big fat cockroach in it. And I go by the bee lady, and I have said out loud, oh yeah, you guys, you think I go by the bee lady, but you're wondering why I'm still around like a cockroach. I've been around for 25 years. Like, I've for a Montreal immigrant, brown girl, I've done very good for my career, but I've reached the glass ceiling. I'm too good for this country. I'm too good as a journalist because the amount imagine this is like, I'm selling it for $66. Okay. People go get blowouts and spend $400 on their hair. This is thousands of work and death threats. And it's limited. So in the future, as a visionary, I go and buy rare books. I'm a bookworm, I'm a nerd. And the real books are thousands of dollars because they're scrubbing, they dilute it, they take the truth, they dilute it, you repeat it enough times, it becomes the new truth. So I don't remember what your question was.
Well, that's fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we're going to go.
I hope you'll watch the movie.
Yeah.
We're going to go to Nevada now. Ron, Nevada, what say you? What's your question?
Well, first off, I just want to say thanks for being here and giving your insight to us, because we're not as knowledgeable on this as you are. So it's enlightening, the information you can pass on to us. My question is, since the coroner ruled that he didn't suffocate, why is Chauvin still in prison? That should exonerate him right from the get-go. And is it politics? Yeah.
I covered the trial for Activist Post every single day. Anyone that watched that trial would have thought that Derek was winning. So again, it's like a TV show. It's all optics to divide people. And if it's a duty to intervene exercise, it's designed like a Gordian knot. Like is it excited delirium? Should we load and go? Should we leave him there? And so as far as the medical examiner, they busted out Michael Baden, a Hollywood forensic pathologist that did Epstein and O.J. Simpson, and he had a Black sidekick because, even the messaging, okay, they used this to get more jabs into the arms of Black men. NIH looked to BLM messaging because, oh, look, the government cares about systemic racism. Maybe Tuskegee wasn't so bad. I have to go and get jabbed because they are the #1 vaccine hesitant. So the fact, the takeaway is also how multi-layered, and you don't let a chaos go to waste, a crisis go to waste. And so the amount that was accomplished look, they both worked at the same club, all right? They both worked at El Nuevo Rodeo. And both times that I posted on Craigslist, hey, I'm looking for someone that can share if you have any, both times within 30 minutes, it was flagged and removed. But the grace of God, I met someone here in Florida that saw them both at El Nuevo. So that means that the way in which they didn't recognize each other is because they were told not to recognize each other. And if they're both thrown under the rug, these people were disposable. So they could have told George, I'm pretty sure if you read this, you'll come to the conclusion it was an operative. We'll make you Rodney 2.0. Last year when you got arrested, you do that same thing, but you put in I can't breathe, because they used I can't breathe in the days of Eric Garner, and they tied it to putting Gus under face diapers. And what if Derek, do people know that Derek graduated as a cook and went to the School of Assassins?
Wow. What?
I mean, it's all I have receipts, right? So I have internal emails between the government and MPD showing the talking points. So do you get why my life is threatened? So it's like for real, there's different, they tailor the torture to people in different ways. And I was just going for the truth.
Right. Very good question from Nevada there, Ron. Now we're going to go to Hawaii with Megeso, our corruption pillar leader. Aloha, go ahead with your question.
Aloha, thank you for being here. My question is, you mentioned theater, and when there was a lot of theater, can you maybe offer your opinion on other staged events that might have taken place during this thing with George Floyd? Do you think a lot of it was staged?
You'd have to be specific. I really deal with details, and even like Sandy Hook, I can tell you, yeah, I think it was an operation, but I haven't looked under the rocks. I've looked under all the rocks here, under all of them. I'm very thorough and I'm very smart, and I use my intuition. I can tell you that they purposely created a bioweapon to go after the heart, because you need the heart to raise your frequency and to reach Christ consciousness. And now that most people are like, hello, anybody know? And that they did give different batches to different people. And I called the FDA, and I called the CDC, and I called Pfizer, and I'm a real hero.
Wow.
And people, when I talk to normies, they are clueless that people lost their bank accounts. When Trump said drink detergent, he was referring to chlorine dioxide. And my friend Mark Grenon spent 4 years in jail, and his sons are still in jail for conspiring against the government, while the government has injected us with poisons.
Wow.
Yeah, and they did.
So we're going to go from one warm state to another. Thank you, Megeso. Mike, Florida, what's your question? And thank you so much.
Hey, Maryam, how are you? As far as George Floyd and Chevin there, they share the same woman. And my understanding is she was living with Chevin, and George Floyd got her pregnant. And that was part of the issue of why he was doing what he was doing.
I didn't find any evidence to that. I did find evidence that Chauvin is the modern day Martin Bird, cleaning money, like in the film, in the show, The Ozarks. And that there was a tax evasion trial, and the tax evasion trial started before the Rona regime. And when I went to reach out to, I don't know if it was the Attorney General or the judge, it's in my book. Let's say I reached out to him in May, he had died in March. And when I found his obituary, it said died at 66 and left 6 grandchildren and 6 great-grandchildren behind. So if he was gonna, he got a tap on the wrist. Why? Because there's a bigger money laundering drug cartel operation. It's like, it's Mordor. It's a very, I would argue all states have their corruption, but if you think of also the mail-in ballots, all the misappropriated funds during the Rona.
Well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Are you saying you have a problem with all the Civil War veterans mailing in their ballots for Joe Biden?
I mean, it's they knew in April that they were going to do their mail-in, and arguably people probably don't know this, but there was a siege against the White House, and it was being orchestrated by Adbusters, which is a Canadian magazine. And I reached out and I recorded the call, and I said, how are you organizing a protest to take the White House under siege, but you want to insist on mail-in voting? And he said, you're paying too much attention to the details. And I said, yeah, that's where the devil lies. And then he said, sayonara, baby. And he hung up on me.
Wow. Very, very good question there, Mike. Now we're going to go to a little cooler climate in Minnesota here. Amber, go ahead with your question. Thank you in advance.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on tonight, Maryam. It's good to talk to you. I was just wondering, what do you hope for your readers to take away from your analysis from all these events with George Floyd?
I want them to see beyond the illusion and the lies. There's a lot of Agent Smiths on the planet. This is a spiritual war. And you have to be very discerning. Again, like the people who infiltrated my beautiful hive, my company, they came across as liking immigrants and minorities, and they got the keys to my kingdom. And in the end, they literally said, because I say things are fake and gay, and they said, you are offensive to the gay community. And I said, well, I'm the writer, and I'm the one who knows entomology. And gay means full of mirth. It comes from the 12th century Germanic origin, and I'm not bowing to the virus of wokeism. So this is how we change reality. All these words, this is over centuries of rewriting, making little tweaks. So it's a very important time on the planet. And I personally, a lot of people fell for this Rona because, like my dad, they're afraid of death. And I'm afraid of not living. I've almost died. And, the only thing you take in the end with you is your soul. So, I think to take away is to see how layered, and even learning about Tavistock. During the Rona, they were selling John Coleman's book, which I offer for a donation on my site, for $1,000. Why is that? Because they don't want people to know the Woodstock, even the New Age. It's all psychological operations. So if you were to look at, the many chapters that I have, a chapter 6 ways to detect a false flag event, the anatomy of a psychological operation, blood debts and human sacrifice. So this was also, a cornerstone ritual according to Masonic rituals.
Well, thank you.
Very good question, Amber. Thank you. We're going to go now to one new member, I hope, that stays in our Patriot family here. Red America First is a Patriot family, so if you're listening up and you don't necessarily trust the government, this is a good place for you to come. And if you love Jesus Christ, that also is a good reason to come. We have Josh from Rhode Island. Josh, thanks for coming tonight. What do you want to ask Maryam? Thank you for coming on tonight.
Well, I mean, not for nothing, I was in federal prison most of the time after the George Floyd thing because of January 6th. But when it goes back to what we were talking about with the vaccinations, they tried to force us to take the vaccination in prison. And I gave them the middle finger, said I wouldn't do it. And I got moved to multiple places over the time. And every time I went to a new place, they tried to do it.
It's called diesel therapy.
Yeah, they diesel therapied me. So the first 11 months I was in 10 different places. And then I finally made it to the actual real feds, the federal prisons. But again, every time I went somewhere, they put me in solitary confinement because I wouldn't take the shot. So I spent a lot of time in solitary confinement just because I would not take a vaccine. Luckily the last place I was at, I was there for over a year. So it was a month and then I was kind of out in like normal society. However, I was in a lot of solitary confinement there too, because it was a very violent place and people kept getting murdered. So they kept locking us down.
What state were you in?
So I'm from DC. No longer, obviously. But they locked me up in, the diesel therapy was all over the country. But where I ended up was West Virginia at Beckley FCI, which is kind of known as like a drop-down yard from the penitentiaries. So there's only 2 federal spots that hold MS-13, and we were one of them. So it's a very violent prison, to say the least, especially for somebody where my charge, which was obstruction of official court proceeding. I didn't have any kind of, assault on a police officer charge, none of that, nor did I assault a police officer. So they kind of threw me to the wolves, but I mean, it is what it is. Yeah, but I mean, I guess that would be my, with the vaccines. And you said you're how old?
52.
Ain't no way. You look like
I come from the stars. I'm a
you look like you're like
queen.
You look like you're like 28.
I love it.
And like at best. So,
well, even more
you must
reason
be doing
for me to be dangerous.
You did something right. Yeah, but no, I mean, I'm glad you came on here for sure. I want to watch the movie. So how do I access the movie?
It's only on my site, Josh. It's only on Maryam.
So on the site, everything is there. Okay. All right. Bet.
Yeah, you can get the book and the movie, and I'm working on trying to get it. I'm banned on Amazon, and since the third publisher is only just printing it,
yeah,
I know that in the future there'll be, there's dangerous people that are first, and then there's safe, dangerous, all these clowns that are now, claiming to be in the medical freedom. As far as the vaccines, I mean, God bless you for not whoring out your soul.
Yeah.
And I'm very aware that I could be you. I've been imprisoned in a different way because I'm a very smart cookie, and I am now alone handling what was $1 million company, and I'm trying to manifest a partner instead of vipers that have come, and it's about loving yourself. And because I'm out of my heart, not ego, that I just didn't love myself enough. But I could be in jail and getting cockroaches in my lunch, being banned everywhere, even a dating app, so they don't want even me to meet people.
Right.
And I say they tailor their torture to the person. You do not have to be a public figure like I am. And most people are like, oh, wow, she's very accomplished, so I'm not allowed to be a journalist. I've had to resign.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I mean, even on like the social media, I mean, I know you've been doxxed and everything else. I mean, I've had the same thing happen, like I've had 70 TikTok accounts. I've had, when I got indicted by the feds, they shut my Facebook and my Instagram down. My Facebook was mostly like how Facebook is. It's like high school friends and family. My Instagram was, I was a competitive bodybuilder. My Instagram was bodybuilding photos, and they still took all my social media down,
So
just to shut me up.
Right. And it's traumatizing. I have canceled PTSD. I have PTSD, and you see it now. It's a hive mind. They don't care, what your situation, whatever. That's communist. So, what did you learn from as far as your spirit or your mission being alone? And how old are you?
I'm 43. Not for nothing to me, obviously prison sucked, but it made me a lot more humble. And it definitely humbled me. I didn't really have a lot of issues in prison because of my size and whatever, but I saw a lot of crazy stuff that I didn't want to see, that you never kind of let go, and
I can't.
When you're in that situation and it becomes the point that you see somebody getting stabbed, and the only thing you can think about is, I hope it wasn't this gang versus this gang, because we'll be locked down longer.
Wow.
And there's like a normalcy to it.
Right.
You know, like it's normal. Like I've seen body bags pushed out. I've seen like just stuff that like shouldn't be normal for somebody, you know? And I mean, I'm from DC. I'm not from a great area. I grew up in a rough neighborhood and all that.
But still, it's such
it's different. You know, it's definitely different. You know, I was in a place where there's just a bunch of people that murdered a bunch of people, and I worked in the kitchen there, thank God, because it allowed me to get more food and get better food. But like, you know, I'm working next to a guy that's an MS-13 member that's in there for chopping up 2 bodies and disposing of them. And I'm in there for obstruction of an official court proceeding. Like, in what world do I belong next to this guy? I just don't,
right.
You know, so.
Right. No, it's insanity. And I say that the mascot for humanity has become the ostrich. And it's like you need people like me or you to stand up, and that we're the real heroes, not people that just read a effing teleprompter and don't do. None of these journalists on the George Floyd, they were just given talking points, and I know that. So my friend, you know, was in prison. The 67-year-old man was also subjected to diesel therapy, and even just, you know, it was the penitentiary or the detention center in Miami. He was in Colombia, which is a joke because the government pays $30,000 up. You can check up with your wife once a week, or you go outside. It's not like the detention center in Miami, no sun, mold. Like, I wouldn't be able to survive, you know. And I think it's people need to know that could be me, and it's not so you could shut up and not say the truth, because I think we've all been tested. It's like there is end times coming.
Maryam and Josh, both of you, in relation to censorship, okay, just first and foremost, our organization, RedAmericaFirst.com, is working on a class action lawsuit against Facebook. So listen, fbcensoredus.com. Share it with your friends. Sign up yourself and tell us the story. And we're adding it to we work with Tom Rentz. He's a lawyer, and he's going to help us with this. But yeah, and Josh, also offline, I gave you directly my cell phone number. We want to hear your J6 story, because we've had Jeremy Brown on, and we've had others that came on to hear their story. So we have Unheard American Story.
Can I ask a question to Josh before?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you saw the Tim Pool episode when the guy with the lectern went on the show from Jason?
Yeah, I did.
Do you think that that's real? Do you think you could go and say, hey, I forgot to go to Tim Pool, can you give me a little break?
I think there's a lot of fake shit going on, especially with the J6ers. Like, here's the thing is I was at a facility where you couldn't do much of anything. Like, they locked you down, they did all this stuff, but there were certain J6ers, I'm not going to throw names because it is what it is, but you're doing a podcast at a prison. Explain that shit to me.
Yeah, dude, exactly.
Explain, like, I can tell you want to know how much it would have cost me to get a phone into the prison? About $15,000, first off. And second of all, if I would have got caught with it, I would have been given another year in prison. So you're telling me you got guys with cell phones in prison doing podcasts with people in the government.
Hang on.
Oh, from the jail.
We were our J6ers were calling from a jail phone, and they only had 15-minute iteration.
Exactly.
And someone had to keep paying money into it so they could call out.
No, these were people with like legit cell phones in the prison.
Yeah.
And that's not really something that you hear of, and you damn sure don't hear about it happening, and then they don't get caught. Like, so.
Well, the point is here it's exactly how you break down the magic spell, right? It is, even if you look at George Floyd, in record time, if you ask the question, how did they get Darnella's footage? Right?
Yeah,
Plus,
right.
I went on her Facebook page before it was restricted, because I was covering this in real time, seeing the evidence disappear in real time, and had too many freedom of information. So this chick used to do lives. She wouldn't do a live as this is unfolding. She gets props from Spike effing Lee. Are you effing kidding me? She gets a Pulitzer Prize, which belongs to me.
Yeah.
So you unravel the magic trick. And even in which this story for George Floyd specifically unraveled on Twitter. So it was even an experiment to see how to influence the public on, what is now going to be the futuristic communist Snapchat.
Right.
There's more, I have more spam since Elon took over. They throttle me. I'm an award-winning journalist. I've been around for 25 years. I can't get more than, and then this person comes on the scene, and the numbers in journalism school, they say, use big numbers, 101 ways to get a man, dazzle. So that's what they're doing now.
Yeah.
Like, I had a vaccine injured woman that I wanted to have on my show. I have a show on Rumble on Fridays, 3 Eastern live. And she's like, how many followers do you have? And I was like, I don't want you on my show. Like, I would never say that.
We deal with the same thing. People are like, oh, what's your views and stuff like that. And
this is my views.
I mean, here's the thing with the views, and this just comes down to the censorship as well. I had somebody on TikTok, I guess I commented on their stuff, and they were a Democrat, and I blasted them. And people were jumping on, they're like, who are you with only 2,000 views? They've got 7 million views. And I don't even know who that person is. I've been on CNN. I've been on HBO. I've been on ITV News out of London. I've done 50 interviews on the news. And I can't get over 2,000, 5,000 followers on TikTok because they shut me down.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's all censorship.
I can only do dance videos. I'm an interpretive dancer on TikTok.
There's a lot more members that want to interact with you, Maryam. Josh, thank you. And please make sure you text me. You got my number.
Absolutely.
God bless you, Josh.
And yeah, we're gonna
see it. What is it? It's fuzzy.
Yeah.
Back it up a little bit.
Yeah, back it up.
Trumped up.
We can't see it. It's
blurry.
Yeah, thank you. Blurry.
In the meantime, we're gonna get Pastor Winnie. It's trumped up. He wrote a book, Trumped Up.
Okay.
We're gonna definitely have him on Unheard Americans. We'll be able to promote that book, Josh. So Pastor Wendy, and we got Rosemary and then a Karen on deck. So go ahead, Pastor Wendy, with your question. Rosemary's on deck. Thank you so much, Pastor Wendy. And she's a host of Pastor's Point Mondays. And Maryam, you can have Valerie and I on one of your episodes in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on and for what you're doing. So I have a question. I hope I might have missed something, but I'm looking at the website now and you've got your book and the DVD. Is that the movie?
Yes.
Does that follow your investigation? Is that what that?
So the movie is, I bought all the footage from the United States government. I used all the cameras so that I can lay out the real timeline. I saw the footage hundreds of times. And the book is all the characters and everything around it is more like a, deep state whodunit thriller. It goes into who is Maya, who are the Sabris, what was happening in Minnesota, who's Benjamin Crump, what's the role of Cup Foods, because nobody on the planet has talked about how central Cup Foods, who made the 911 call, who organized the funerals, the United States government, while you buried your uncle via Zoom, and George Floyd got 4 funerals. Well, the United States government.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, that was just the question. I don't know if I missed something, but my other thing was, now I've heard you speak about a little bit about Sandy Hook, which you've done and done some investigative.
No, I have not done what I said was I wouldn't be able to comment because I personally haven't looked under that rock. And
and then you also mentioned, I think you even referred to even Woodstock and the psyop and all that and all of that. Do you have anything like that that's going to be? So I guess do you have anything that's going to be like forthcoming about any of that? And also, do you, with regard to the parties in this government right now, do you think they're all involved in this? You think there's one more than the other? You think it's all like one, like everybody's being played?
Same coins, both sides. It's a push-pull. I knew Trump was going to win. That's why I was in Miami, and I only was there because I tore my meniscus. And I was like, I'm getting out of a smart city. And how smart they're not gonna have funky fog in his backyard. He's right there. So, I think what's happening with the solar flares, what's happening up in the sky, don't look up. And it's like my message, and I'm tapped in, is get your house in order. And really, it really takes a lot of scrutinizing to be honest with yourself, because we're all mirrors and this is a spiritual war. Like, I would have never thought I'd have two different parties infiltrate my company. There's a lot of Agent Smiths. As far as like, I've pulled out of politics. It's all, and I'm a journalist. It's all fake and gay to me, and I'm doing my inner work, and I consciously put my spiritual self on the back burner to sacrifice calling and trying to warn people that this bioweapon was coming.
Wow.
And it's not over, because it's a transhumanist agenda. We still haven't even talked about the GO. It's still so censored, even though graphene oxide is a boom industry. And now even like, if anybody, Edward Grant, he's an Egyptologist. In his presentation, they're talking about sacred geometry, and then they plug in graphene. Nobody pays attention. It's truth mixed with lies. So we all need to be discerning. And if you still have a heart, like what's happening in the planet is people who are ego-based, and they're in the matrix. And I understand. I also have to eat. I'm on food stamps now. I have to say, please sign up to my Substack. I used to write for all the top magazines. So life is already hard enough. And it's different when you're like on some crap list. So I'm writing my second book, but it has nothing, it has to do with metaphysics and ancient wisdom and divine feminine and Christ consciousness and quantum entanglement. It has nothing to do with politics, and it's on my Substack. And I'm trying to save my company and bring, for the right person out there that doesn't want to work for the man, that likes health and wellness, I have all the ingredients. I was making $3,000 a day before the algorithmic changes and infiltration. So wow. I have thousands of customers. I can't do it all. I am superwoman, but I'm on this planet to create content.
We totally understand the world of unfairness here on our platform. Yeah. Thank you, Pastor Winnie, for that question. So just to let you know, you're not alone in this world, in the sense of unfairness in the big tech world, on social media. We were put in censorship jail on Facebook for over a calendar year. Our organization was, and we've been suffering on growth because of that, and also shadow ban and stuff like this. Rosemary is going to be the last question. Karen had her hand up, but she put her hand down, so I'll see if she wants to chime in. But Rosemary, go ahead with your question, and we're going to have to get Maryam's last minutes here after that. Thank you, Rosemary. Go ahead.
Maryam, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all that information with us. But I was wondering, since you have been censored, how difficult would it be to use a pen name in order to get your publications out? And also, I would like to ask you if you would like to write a page for us. We have a magazine, which we put out each month. And I would very, very much like to have a page from you, if you would.
Okay. Yeah, please contact me and share.
Well,
share as far as a pen name, I'm thinking of changing my identity. I'm not changing my name on the book. I just need we the people to share it and to support a real journalist, because we're endangered species. As far as my future works, my next book, I don't know. I mean, even speaking about the divine feminine is anything that comes out of my mouth seems to be challenging. So I don't know. I might go back to Costa Rica. And the Matrix is there too, but at least I can wake up with the monkeys if I'm allowed to leave, because I mean, flying is so unpleasant. With people are not even realizing that they're looking at biometric machines, that they're going through radiation. It's so unpleasant.
Maryam, real quick.
Well, yeah, you could direct the information or your article to Ashley, and he will direct it to me because I do not have your direct
Okay, well,
contact.
I'll give it to, it's Maryam. Anybody that wants to message me or do a functional medicine consult, or it's Maryam at Honey Colony, MARYAM at honeycolony.com. That's the original Aramaic spelling of the Virgin Mary.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for that, Maryam. Maryam, I just want to make sure in the chat, I gave you my cell phone number. So make sure you send me a text. Valerie and I want to engage with you and talk with you about more details. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Let's keep in contact. And real quick, can we?
Yes.
Can we have you come back to town hall?
I would love that. Thank you. I like interacting with we the people. I'm sorry, I'm looking to see where your phone number is.
Yeah, they changed the chat, so you might have to click up. There's a private chat to you directly, not in the main chat.
Oh, okay, got it.
You click it and you might see it there.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I will do that. Thank you for having me on, and
thank you for coming. I so enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll be in touch with you, and if you can give, was it Naomi that who wanted my?
Yeah, we got it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to copy it before I jump off.
No problem. You can stay on. We're just going to transition to our other guest.
So I'm going to jump off and work and write. It takes a lot of time to write. I don't know why it's not copying. I'm going to give you. I'm just going to write it down. Hold on.
No problem. In the interim, Maryam, thank you so much.
Thank you. Blessings. God bless everyone.
And we're going to definitely have you come back.
Your health and your heart and your family, and be kind to one another. Bye.
Thank you, doll.
Thank you so much.
So that was Maryam. Oh my gosh. Now we have Robert Kraft. Bob.
Yeah, Bob's fine.
Okay, Bob. Well, thanks for coming tonight to town hall. Geez, we gotta talk about you a little bit. You know,
yes,
you're a dedicated leader, driving force behind United Republic,
our United Republic,
and a passionate advocate for restoring constitutional governance and national sovereignty. Bob brings a wealth of experience and deep commitment to the principles of founding fathers. So, gosh, Val, what's the first question for Bob?
The first question is how are you?
Hold on. I want to apologize again for not showing up again. I really do apologize. Things have been crazy, and I was gonna reach out the day that you called me because I was like, oh, I missed it. I didn't even realize it, and I caught on the calendar. So I do apologize. Okay, that's not common practice.
Well, I know you're really busy out there saving our country, so
trying.
I got a good excuse. So
here's your first question.
But yeah, I mean, what I would like, if you don't mind, is if you could just take a moment and share with our audience like what our United Republic is all about, and then about you, you know, and how your personal journey led you to become a key voice in this movement.
Yeah. Again, thanks for having me on. So I have kind of cut my teeth in the civil court system through the family law system for about 20 years. I literally went to town with the courts for literally 17 years. Like, I racked up the largest family law case in Sarasota County history. They actually had to put a moratorium on the case. So that's where I cut my teeth in trial and litigation.
Are you a lawyer by trade?
No, I am not. I was a pre-law major in 2020 at Liberty University. It was not the type of law that I wanted to practice, because I wanted to practice common law, more common law type law, which is non-existent, which actually is international law now that I've learned enough to know. So American international law is actually common law. I actually found the book in the library in Brooklyn Supreme Court Library. It said American International Law, Process and Procedure. And I open it up. It says English Common Law. I'm like, wow, there it is. So that was the type of law, like the original American founding law. That's the type of law that I was attracted to. And when I was in pre-law, it was not anywhere near what we were supposed to be learning. So I ended up leaving the program, and I kind of I was on my own road anyways. And then I stumbled across the International Bar Association. And when I went to get my membership there, they basically just had me submit my personal education, like with my other credentials, stuff like that. And they issued me a membership, and I was in. And I'm like, what? Well, then when you go back to like 1700s, 1800s, that's what happened. Like you would self-study, and then you would accumulate enough philosophy. You would read Francis Bacon and Plato and Aristotle and all of these concepts of social civic construct, because we literally live in like layers of constructs, which are political bodies, which are basically relationships. Just depends on what type of relationship it is. So, and then you would submit to this like these justices, and if they would examine you and they would determine that you had accumulated enough knowledge that you could now practice as a common law lawyer, not an attorney, because you're not representing a corporation. And you're not, so attorney actually means like at the tournament, where you're representing in place of the king, but you were a lawyer, or you were a seeker of law, and you were practicing law instead of legalese. So that's really the difference between a corporate attorney versus a lawyer. They are two different entities that do two different things. And then I got my membership after I had already founded our organization. So our United Republic is a private public division of a American non-governmental organization, an NGO. The primary organization, or the core of the organization, is an organization called the Brotherhood and Tribulation of the American People. That is a birth child of two organizations. One is called the Assembly of Robert Louis Craft, which is the Constitution stuff on our website. So this was founded as an individual, private, non-governmental individual as in one human being, private ministry. And then that was constituted. And then from that, it adjoined to another organization that was being harassed by the Republican Party. The Republican Party's kind of changed. They're not really doing this, but they were. There was like this weird point where they were becoming very aggressive with like people, and they were chasing everybody down for using the word Republican. I don't know if you guys remember that. It was like this weird moment of transition where they were doing that. Well, this organization had removed they had removed this entity that they were using, and they changed the name, and this entity was kind of still floating out there because it was abandoned. It wasn't dissolved. So we took that organization and moved it into the private sector and merged it with my assembly, and that created the birth child called the Brotherhood and Tribulation of the American People. So that is the fundamental core organization that basically everything is hubbing off of. So that's the hub. That organization is the private sector divisional hub. If you were to think of like an airport, a private sector divisional hub. So the hubs that go out from that are our United Republic. That is our private public organization. That's who the public interacts with. And then there's a sub-organization there called the American People's Public Trust. And that is where our shares, that's where our treasury stuff is. That's where our shares are. That's where all that stuff is. So our United Republic is the administrator for the American People's Public Trust. So they're two different entities kind of. On the private American side, there is the Brotherhood and Tribulation American People. There is the American People's Common Trust. And that is the trust that was given to the U.S. military in August. That is their trust, their domestic operational trust for them to administer, to operate domestically inside the United States. So that was delivered for them in August. And then now there is the Grand Union Continental Nobles Foundation, which was delivered to them 2 days before the Grand Military Parade, by the way.
Gotcha. Yep.
So that is the mechanism of U.S. Army and U.S. Marine Corps force inside the United States, inside the American Republic, as the Grand Military. And then a couple days ago, we just gave them their first armory, so they have an armory now for the Grand Military. Yeah, that was given to them 4 days ago, maybe. For them to
14th or 15th.
Yeah, probably the 14th or 15th. It was a couple days after the parade. We had given them their first armory in Maryland.
Okay.
So our organization is pretty dynamic because there's a lot of divisions.
Yeah.
But because we can't have the military always interacting with the public, we have to have like these separations.
Okay.
So does that answer your question?
Yeah, and we can move on to the next question too. Because I just kind of wanted people to have a little bit of your background and like what you're doing. Now, I have one question before I go to the next question, but are you able to share with us about the trusts or what you've been working on or anything like that with the audience yet, or do you have to keep that secret for right now?
I can say some things. Okay. And there's a lot of things, like when it comes to direct interaction with the military, I've talked to them a few times. We have an actual vetted liaison, and that liaison, she's with us. She's our organizational representative, but she is vetted through Space Force. Okay. So she deals with them regularly. She's on the phone with them every day.
Wow.
So, I have a situation right now where some people have approached me. They have funding. They want to try they're saying, I've had this happen before. They're saying they want to fund us. I don't know who these people are. So when I get their names, I will put them to her. She will have them vetted to make sure that they're not something they're not supposed to be.
Right. Gotcha.
So
you've spoken about the vision of a new republic. Could you walk us through how someone becomes a citizen in this framework and what that means for their role in reclaiming individual liberty?
Yeah, so a lot of our challenge, I don't want to say a problem because it's not a problem, it's a challenge, right? It's just something we have to overcome. We did not understand that, number one, the America is not the United States. And that is a very, very important concept to grasp, that the United States has a duty and a job, but that job is a restrained job. And when it comes to American affairs, that is outside their wheelhouse. They are not allowed to get involved. It is the America as we believe it is, and as it really is actually a kingdom. It's a temple. It's a sovereign, independent kingdom. Okay. The United States is a mechanism of defense and trade for that kingdom. And it's also the mechanism of protection for the kingdom to the public or the United States of America, which is a completely separate entity. So while things happen inside the America that are for the United States acts for the United States of America. Does that make sense? So it's like a country within a country within a country. So, and you kind of got to look at these different jurisdictions because they play a very different role in how they operate.
Yeah.
With
that,
yeah.
If you go into that a little bit, are you talking about like the land or the sea or that kind of thing?
Yes. So when you actually dig into this stuff, that's exactly where you go, because so ancient philosophy really focuses on the human brain's ability to conceptualize really does come from nature. So we place representations out of nature on things subconsciously. We just do it because that's how we associate. It's our association. They do the same thing in law. So when we say law of the sea, we're actually talking about admiralty law, which is our private sector commercial law. So that would be like if you go to I'm not sure if everybody goes to Walmart, but most people have gone to Walmart. Okay. If you go to Walmart, the admiralty sector is actually the trucks that come into from the distribution center to the back. That is your admiralty law. Okay. When it comes in by bulk, that is admiralty. When it's operating in profit or maritime, that is where you take your vehicle and you pull into the dock at the marina, which is called the parking lot, and you travel across the dockyard and you walk in the front door and you collect your consumable commodity, right? It's either consumables or commodities. And then you take it and you leave. And when they check your receipt at the door, that is technically you leaving the port or the dockyard, and they are verifying your bill of lading because you're literally a maritime trucker. That's like it's kind of that's how the system's kind of set up.
Right.
So you have to start looking at yourself like the roads are the rivers and the vehicles are the boats, and you've got your little check card that gets you through, right? And when you take that transaction, when the system's operating correctly, right? When they're divided and they look right and they're all working appropriately, when you are in that space, you are at maritime. Because you're on private property, right? Those businesses are private because commerce must be protected. Okay. So when you pull out your check card and you plug it in, you are now operating at U.S. maritime law officially, because you are conducting the exchange of tender or currency. Okay. So that's the facilitation mechanism where it exchanges. Once the receipt's done and you've validated your bill of lading, right? You got your receipt. That's the receipt. And that's why you have to be offered a receipt. You're required to be offered a receipt. That's why. It's a verification of property. So when you have that, that is now individual property. If you are an American, it is individual property. If you are a U.S. citizen, it is corporate property, because you are technically not bestowed the age of majority. You are still an infant, so you are observed as a consuming, selfish, infantile child. And
So
that's where they nailed us. That's where they got us.
Yeah,
That's the kicker right there.
Mm-hmm.
They shut down the probate court, where you were supposed to be emancipated at 21. According to Blackstone, at 21, you were to get emancipated. Once you were emancipated, you leave the protection of your mother and father. You're no longer an infant, and you start your own journey because you have reached the age of reason. Well, what they did was they declared Andrew Jackson in right around 1820, after the Treaty of Sessions, as the ordained Pope of Florida, declared all individuals as vessels, and basically locked everyone under maritime law as infants.
Wow.
That's really what happened. And we were all just locked in this box we couldn't get out of.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of questions that are going to be coming in from our members.
That's all right.
And it's fine. There's going to be a lot of questions coming in. Go ahead, Valerie.
Yeah. So your take on the 250th Army birthday on June 14th, what stood out during that celebration, and how do you see it connect with how we are going forward to the new republic?
Well, it really was a birth day. Like, it was a birth, like we were birthing it. So the grand military was birthed. Birthed, like the real birth. Like it was, and it was not super pretty, by the way. So most births aren't. And I'm a paramedic, so most births are not super pretty. Okay, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
So, but here's the problem, or the challenge, right? The challenge was, and this is something that we had to figure out when we started putting these trusts together and started giving them to certain, like we gave one to the Army and the Marine Corps because we needed the Army and Marine Corps back inside the United States, away from the Navy, right? We needed the Navy left at the port at sea in the harbor, and we needed the Army and Marines on the land inside, right? That's what we needed. That's what we were missing, because they are our mechanism of force. They are the people's military. And that's why Posse Comitatus had to be passed by the legislation to specifically get the military away from the American people. Because as long as the military was attached to the American people's common courts, and they could unleash the Marines on corrupt government, there was no way they were going to get this thing. There was no way they're going to be able to take it over. They had to get the Marine Corps and the Army, regular Army, away from the people. And that's literally what they did. And if you go back through history, the king always had his army, and he always had the king's men. Well, when our nation was founded, the people got the military, the people got the army. That was their military, and they were the military. They were part of that military, and it was a volunteer military, and it was by choice, in spirit, taking the power of force away from the king, but leaving the king, which is the politicians, which is the well, it used to be the Congress that we have, isn't, they're not even there anymore. They're gone. So, but the ones that were there, they were allowed to keep commerce. They were allowed to keep maritime. They were allowed to get rich. Fine. You want to get rich? Fine. You want to make money? Fine. You want to work out deals? Fine. No problem. We have the mechanism of force. And if you get out of line, we will unleash it on you. So stay in your lane. That's why Posse Comitatus had to be overridden. Go ahead. Oh,
there's been mentions of changes in
A little bit, but we can still hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, you're a little bit broken, but it's coming back in.
Oh, okay. Okay.
There's been mention of changes in territorial jurisdictions involving the Mormon Church and Islamic communities. Can you explain what you've observed regarding their influence and what this might mean for the sovereignty of American land?
Yeah, so it was it's kind of funny. I stumbled across the whole Mormon Church thing because I was looking for something else, and then I had stumbled across the article where they had blatantly openly said they are taking, and they were very specific about the words that were there, and me knowing about, because I really did study jurisdictions. Like I really did study, where does this jurisdiction start? Where does this one end? Where do we get to the next one? What does that one do? Like, that's kind of my thing. That's what I learned. That's what I focused on for a very long time. So when they were using the words that I'm like, wait a minute, that is literally like U.S. equity law and U.S. general law. So they were literally talking like, and they're like, oh, North America, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, and then when I mentioned it, I said, people were like, no, that's how they're structured. And one of the comments I made was, you mean to tell me that your entire church, every part of dictionarily synchronized to our equity and general law jurisdiction courts? That should be scary in itself. There is not one
it sounds
sacred text anywhere for any religion that is synchronized specifically to the language of anywhere. So that should terrify people as to the operation. So what they did, what it appears they did, and they're the ones that set the date. August 1st is the date. According to them, they will be taking the United States equity and general law jurisdiction administration as of August 1st. That is what that article said.
Wow.
So technically, Canada will be the 51st state come August 1st.
Okay, and how do you
which is cool.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. They're always with us anyways, according to the Articles of Confederation. So that's fine. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that.
So, and then later, it was like a couple days later, is when it got revealed that Islam, which I don't think it's Islam like everyone's hearing about Iran and all this stuff. It wasn't Islam, Iran. I'm pretty sure, I'm probably 80% sure it was the American Islamic Moors out of Guyana, which is in South America.
Oh.
The reason, so I guess I'll just say it because I've already said it. The reason that I'm pretty sure it's the American Islamic Moors is because when I went to Brooklyn the first time, a veteran said he was a veteran, but he was an American Islamic Moor, spent the entire day with me, and I basically took him around New York and showed him everything he needed to do to actually take that jurisdiction. So, and then all of a sudden, there they are. Like, here we are. Wait a minute.
Oh, wow.
How'd you get there? They got there because I showed them how to do it.
Wow. Okay.
So that is the North American, and everyone's gonna be like, well, why'd you do that? Why? Because we're not organized enough to take a jurisdiction that big. We are so fractioned and nobody can get on the same page, we still have people running around arguing that they're the real republic. Like, they at least have some semblance of organization, and we need an organization to take it to get to the next level. So they just happen to be the ones that got there, it looks like. Now, what's interesting about Islam is that it would have required signature from the Nation of Islam leaders. They would have had to agree on the Eastern Hemisphere to that situation. That would have been a requirement.
Okay.
Because that's how the system works. Like, if it's on one, if it happens over here, the counter signer on the other side of the world, if it happens Western hemispherically, the counter signer on the other side of the world has to sign off to allow it to happen. That's why we have a counter signer, because they're on the other side of the system, right? So there's always a count. When you have a signer, there's always a counter signer. So odds are, and I think all this stuff that's happening with Iran is because Iran just found out that when they countersigned the Moors to take that jurisdiction, they actually abandoned their religious status. They're no longer, so Islam is no longer a religion. Islam is now just another government.
Okay.
So
you said that we have like a lot of these in our country right now, or I mean, in the United States.
The Moors?
Yeah, well, I mean, just different sections. You know what I mean? Jurisdictions.
Oh, listen. You can walk down, if you were to go to Federal Triangle in DC, and you were to walk there, if you were to head towards like the old Trump hotel. When you if you look, it's like the fifth building in. When you look, the hotel's called the Continental, right? That Continental is in continental jurisdiction. When you go to the next hotel, it says international. You just went from continental to international, and all you did was change a street address, literally going to the next building over.
Wow.
That is like Trump International Hotel. That is like international jurisdiction. So, and what it really has to do, and people, and this is where people would probably go, well, what makes international versus continental? What makes it right? What's significant about that? It actually has to do with the type of currency that particular facility is allowed. They can take numerous different types of currencies at that hotel. You going in there would get, and remember, these currency systems are like a hierarchy. So like as you go up, like the more and more you have, the higher you go, but you can always accept what's below you.
Mm-hmm.
So the regular public would never know they can do all this other stuff.
Right. No, I was going to, so if you could explain the distinction between unincorporated and incorporated states to us, if you could break it down in simple terms and explain how it ties to the governance model that you're advocating for.
Yeah, so all of the states pretty much that we have right now, if we say state of Florida, well, state of Florida is not Florida. Okay, so that means it's not a constitutional state, is a federated state entity, which puts it under Article 4. So it's in the federal government. It's not it's a corporate body. It's a political body corporate. Okay, which means it's for profit through revenue. An unincorporated state, which there's only right now, as far as I know, Delaware is the only remaining unincorporated state, first state. It's not Delaware the first state. It's Delaware like you. This is where like you have to start the state. Like this is like the beginning. Like you have to go back to Delaware, and you have to start again from Delaware, and then build out from Delaware. So because Delaware is an unincorporated state, that's why you'll find like all thousands and thousands of like NGOs or corporations are all coming out of Delaware. Because Delaware is the last original American state. Oh. I'm going to jump off and jump back on. Let me jump off, jump back on.
Bob's going to come back. He's got to jump off for a second, come back. Man,
I mean, it's a little confusing because I don't really know all of common law, and I don't know, you know what I mean? I figured he'd be a pretty good person to kind of come and talk to us about what his organization was doing for our country. So what do you guys think so far?
Well, when he comes back, I think he.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
There he is.
There you are.
All right. We good?
Bob. So the next questions we heard about this new American National Republican Foundation, National Republic Foundation and the American Continental Grand Union Law, with references to Gold Star family sponsorships and the Grand Union jurisdiction. Can you tell us more about this foundation, its structure, perhaps the role to the American Grand Union Main Continental Nobles Foundation, and how it aims to restore higher continental status for America?
Yeah, so the Nobles Foundation is another division of the Brotherhood, but that is the actual division that puts the Grand Union Army, the Grand Union military, into the mechanism of force. So that is their domestic American, that is the Marine Corps and Army's domestic American carrier platform that they can operate on inside America. So that's what the Nobles Foundation is. It's literally just another division of the Brotherhood and the American People's Common Trust, and each division is like building on top of itself. So now we've gotten to, now they need a carrier for them, because they need a trust of the Brotherhood and the American People's Common Trust, and each division is like building on top of itself. So now we've gotten to, now they need a carrier for them, because they need a trust to work off of, because pretty much everything works off trusts. So they have to have a mechanism, like a platform, like an aircraft carrier. They have to have a mechanism, a force carrier that they can put their assets and they can work off of. And that's essentially what that is. So it's just another division of the same organization.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying that. Now, those that are watching the live stream, we're going to be going, opening up with some members. So we're going to go with Migeso in Hawaii first. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a few questions, if you don't mind. You mentioned being a non-governmental organization, but you had many branches. I think you mentioned public and private. So are you a corporation within a corporation?
No, we are. Okay, so one of the founding principles of our organization, if you were to go to our website and read our constitution, is that we do not allow corporate or currency or profit within the organization itself. So anything that we do that has to do with money or currency or profit has to be a commissioned separate organization to make sure that we don't take on the shroud of being incorporated. We have to be able to associate in a very limited capacity, and it's very restricted. So, like,
So
I'll give you
are you a private membership association?
we are a private, non-governmental organization. Yes, we are.
Okay. What's your classification though? Is it 508, 501, or what are you?
No, we are
Nothing.
not. We are not recorded with the federal government. We do not have an EIN number. We are registered with FinCEN through U.S. Treasury, which puts us under the U.S. Coast Guard Financial Crimes Enforcement Division outside of the federal government.
Then how do you navigate in the courtroom, in the public or private?
I don't. We avoid any kind of civil court because there's no mechanism, and any courts that we have to use, if we were to use them, we would have to go to DC to use them, because that's really the only place that there are any type of actual courts left. But even those are all changing. So we don't get involved in consumer affairs, and we don't get involved in personal affairs. So we don't operate in that capacity, and we don't assist people who have challenges in that capacity, because that's beyond our scope.
Okay.
We're not civil attorneys,
Right.
so we don't
Well,
operate there.
You mentioned being a vessel, and a vessel would be of the sea, but it's also anything that moves. If you're following the Republic and the Declaration and the Constitution, those are laws of the land, not of the sea. And when the Grand Army was on display in Washington, everyone was wearing this, which meant they were all representing the earth or the laws of nature.
Correct.
How does that interact with you?
Well, that would be true, except that Article 3 does reference admiralty law and maritime law. And Article 1 does reference that the Congress of the United States will maintain a Navy. And Article 4 is for full faith and credit, which has to do with our consumer sector. So while the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, it does come into association with the sea, and it does come into association with Oceania, and it does come into association with over the land, which is our air jurisdiction, which is Air Force.
Was that the intersection of the courthouses and the federal buildings are all ships and dry dock?
Well, most of the buildings now have been moved to national jurisdiction. That's why like these federal legislators can't get back into them. They're being told no, because now they're national, which means they've been moved into equity. So they're no longer federal buildings. We're in this whole hyper exchange situation, but previously, when they were federal, before any of these trusts were put in place, that federal was actually Western Pacific Ocean, and that was actually in Oceania.
Okay,
So
one other question. You mentioned countersign, when Iran countersigned for the Moors, for example. But in a contract, on the countersigning, whoever countersigns assumes the responsibility of the person that countersigned for a nation in this particular case.
Well, I think in the context, go ahead. Sorry, I apologize.
No, you seem to explain it in the other direction. I was just wanting clarification.
Well, I think the way that they're using countersign when they're executing these treaties is that is the sponsor on the other side that is agreeing to that contract taking place. In other words, they're the mechanism of sponsorship. So one thing I know about let me think of the best example. Like the Treaty of Paris after the Civil War, right? When the whole Liberty Bell, like the Statue of Liberty, right? So the Statue of Liberty was a gift. It was a gift from France. It wasn't a gift. France was the one who sponsored the Treaty of Peace and they were the ones who commissioned the Statue of Liberty as the consideration when that treaty was done, because there has to be a mechanism of consideration for every contract. They are the countersigner because they are the mechanism on the other side that is considered, quote unquote, the observer that agrees to the relationship.
We were in debt to France for helping finance the Revolutionary War.
Well, we weren't in debt to France. We actually took our loans. Well, let me walk that back. We had loans out to the Dutch originally, because our first embassy was actually in the Netherlands, and that was facilitated by John Adams. And then we got loans from King Louis, that we were in debt as far as they were concerned. However, when Alexander Hamilton established the first Bank of the United States of America, it came out that we had an $8 million surplus. We could have paid off that debt, but he determined that it was better to have international or global credit. So we ended up moving those loans, and then we started the Bank of the United States of America, the Bank of the United States of America, which is technically the Grand Bank. And we started to make money using our credit system, which was set up by Hamilton. So yes, we were in debt, but we weren't in debt as far as like we were in the hole. When they merged all the money together, there was actually an $8 million surplus. And if you read it in Alexander Hamilton's writings, he actually talks about the fact that there was this $8 million surplus after all of our debts would have been paid. And he flipped it over and then made the United States the debtor and made the American people the beneficiary and called it debt. And it's actually written right in his writings. Like, he actually says that he reversed it.
Wow. Thank you for those questions, Miguel. So our corruption pillar leader for Red America First. Now we're going to go to Hawaii again. Susan, go ahead.
Hi, Bob.
Go ahead, Susan.
Hello.
So make sure I'm unmuted. I just wanted to get your take on this. Hawaii, we have issues because there's a gray area regarding annexation. And we also have a House of Nobles that are supposedly in negotiations with either the U.S. federal government or America. Really can't say in this time of transition which one. And I think since we're all in the process of disentangling ourselves from the system, we're still, because we're a blue state technically, not figuratively, but we still
up in the same situation with the rest of the 50 states. I don't think you're going to see a per se a separating of like Hawaii and stuff like that. I think what you're actually going to see is a unification of Hawaii, Alaska. Greenland's already coming online, and there are a total of 36 countries that are actually in. Most people don't know this. There are 36 countries inside the North American continent. Statistically, at the end of this, when of order, so you're going to see like these 36 countries continentally are going to kind of be on a unified base jurisdictional platform, and the 8 continents of the world are going to operate as the 8 continents of the world. So
are you including
that will be a
the
jurisdiction.
Five Eyes countries?
What's that?
The countries that were under the crown, under crown rule. Are you including those in what you're?
And down to Panama, out to Alaska.
Canada was also
Canada,
under crown rule.
Greenland. Yeah. Yeah, all
Yeah,
that
Nova
that British Crown rule right now. The British, the European Union and the British government are in a serious bind because they are the federal debt that has been accumulated is actually their debt. So they owe that debt to the American people. So instead of us, so that's the problem right now. That's why the European Union is losing its mind, is because they know that they're on the hook $37 trillion in debt. That's their debt. We worked for them. We slaved for them. They were the ones ruling us.
And the
They've been
monarchy has
removed,
spent all.
and now we can call in the debt because we paid it forward.
Very, very good questions there. Thank you, Susan, from Hawaii there. Now we're going to go to North Carolina. We're going to call on Jimmy here. So, Jimmy, go ahead with your question. Thank you.
Bob, I got one question for you, buddy. So, can you tell me about this DEI that's been going around about these major corporations?
I didn't hear that last part.
Can you tell me something about the DEI that's going along with these major corporations?
Yeah. So the problem with DEI. Okay. So here's the issue with like DEI, or I actually can't see it. Like I'm looking at your fan. There you are. Hey, man.
Yeah.
So the DEI and like the transgender thing, like this whole going on, this is all part of the same beast. Here's the problem. The problem, I don't know what that is. Are you guys there?
That was Ashley. Yeah, we're here.
That was kind of funny. But this is a good question. It's a really good question. So the DEI, the transgender, all this stuff, right? The equality in sports, right? All this stuff. And people are like, this is crazy. It's crazy. Actually, it's not. There is an absolutely perfectly logical legal reason for all of it. And it comes down to the perception of the concept of a legal entity vessel versus an actual natural human being. And because the maritime jurisdiction can only speak to legal entity corporate vessels, they cannot treat them, whether they are male or female. They have to look at them singularly. And because they have to look at them singularly, they cannot differentiate because that would be a violation of corporate rights.
Yep.
And it would put one inferior over the other. That's why all of that stuff, that is the reason why legally totally correct once you remove the concept of a human being and you put it into a corporate entity.
Well, I'm gonna say this, and I won't say nothing else. I guess like if I was a cat and I was just applying for a job, they look at me and say, well, if you're a cat, we can go ahead and hire you. But now if you're like a Native American or a black person or anything like that, you can get a job just like that. And to be honest, they will not look at your qualifications. They won't look at your profile. They're just gonna look at who you are.
That's correct. The reason is because the tribes are organized, or there is an organization that is favored that moves them out of that legal persona into an individual of protected class, which falls under. So it's a difference of. So here you go. I'll make it really simple. If you are not in that classified status, you are at civil law under as an employee, right? As an employee, you are employed. But if you are, hold on. Hold on. Let me see if this fixes it. Hold on, give me 1 second. All right, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you are a persona, you are employed, you're an employee, you are in civil law under employment rights, employee rights.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
If you are an individual in one of these classifications,
Right.
you are at equity law under workman, which means that you are to go to a workman compensation and claims court under workers compensation. Workers' compensation is actually workman consideration, which means the right to contract, not to be employed, which is a totally separate court.
Wow.
Right.
So employees are slaves, workmen get compensated and can contract.
Right.
One's an individual, one is a slave or a vessel to be exploited. Actually, technically, it's not even a vessel. It's actually a plantation farming mechanism of production, no different than a horse that would plow the field.
Well, I'm gonna say one thing. I want everybody to hear what I'm gonna say. So when I graduated high school in 2010, I applied for my local university. When I applied for my local university, they turned me down because I'm a member of my own tribe, and my tribe owns that university. So they turned me down, and I applied again. They turned me down. I applied about maybe 4 or 5 times. They turned me down. So I said I'm not going to worry about it.
Too bad.
That's the problem is not that they turned you down. The problem is there's no court to get an actual real answer as to why they turned you down. And that's really what the problem is. Without these courts operating, there is no way to get the questions answered.
Nope.
And that's really what has to be fixed.
Yep.
Very good question there, Jimmy. We're going to go to Minnesota now. Go ahead, Amber, with your question. Thank you.
Hello, thank you for coming on tonight. Bob, I was just wondering, how does our United Republic plan to address the erosion of trust in institutions like the judiciary to ensure they remain accountable to the American people?
Well, our organization is really, so the whole organization's design was really to do two things. It's designed, listen, and I've said this to people, and I don't think they really grasp what the organization is. The organization is a predator in the context of it finds people or individuals or groups that are working together nefariously. It identifies them, it isolates them, and then it goes after them. That's all it's designed for. It doesn't do anything else. It actually, when you read through it, it actually has no other operational function than to run inquisitions and prosecute. That's literally all it does. So, and every division of it is building out the infrastructure to either inquire, inquisition, or prosecute. So, and it needs a mechanism of force, which is why we need the judge advocate generals. We need Homeland Police, which they're not even Homeland Security anymore. They've been moved to Baltimore, and they're actually Homeland Police now. The reason they're Homeland Police is because we have.
Right.
So we are bringing military police into the homeland, and those are the people's military police.
Right.
So that's what we're building out. Our organization, we don't do profit. We don't have any mechanisms of commerce, so we don't do any sales. We don't do trade stuff. So we don't do any of that stuff. We only do we facilitate individual rights. We help coordinate communities to get themselves organized properly and get proper delegatory representation, and get that community into their own private trust so that they can move their assets into that, and they can put some kind of shield up between them and the consumer or the corporate sector. And we're basically hunt down douchebags. Pretty much the only thing it's made for. It's not made for anything else.
Okay, thank you.
Very good question. Before we go into the intel round, we got a couple more questions. Shell, Texas, go ahead, and then we'll close. Valor and I will close. Go ahead, Shell. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Yes, I wanted to thank you for coming on. I did have one question I wanted to double back on. You said something about the Nobles Foundation Division of the Brotherhood. You said something about the Nobles Foundation Division of the Brotherhood. What was that again?
Yeah, that's so that Nobles Foundation is the grand military's mechanism for them to actually operate internally inside the American Republic under the mechanism of force. And that Nobles Foundation, so really the Nobles Foundation is a formality, because in the U.S. Constitution it says that the United States cannot issue a title of nobility, right? It says that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But that means the American people can issue a title of nobility. And for the American people to grant a title of nobility, it puts that title of nobility or that individual organization into a higher authoritative jurisdiction than the jurisdictions that are inside Article 3 of the U.S. Constitution, which puts the American Republic above the U.S. So now the American people have a place to go outside of the U.S. where they can be protected. So Nobles Foundation is an American people's. Noble designation, not a United States noble designation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. But I'm kind of interested at the origin of that name. I noticed at the end of it, it says Brotherhood. Does that mean Masonry or Shriners affiliation?
No, we're not affiliated with. We're not affiliated
Okay.
with any of the only affiliations that we have is we are recognized by the National Association of Christian Ministers, which is the ones who granted my international independent ordainment, which basically meant that I could go out and build any kind of church I want the way that I want it, which is what I'm doing. That's really it, right? Because the in Article 1 or Amendment 1, the establishment of religion, right? So most people take that as, oh, you can build a church. No, that's not what it says. What it says is non-governmental organization. What it says is the establishment of good moral and good ethical standard, because that's really what religion's supposed to be. It's supposed to be the moral compass of a people, right? It's just a moral compass, right? That's really what they all technically are supposed to be. So when you say establishment, though, now you're talking about an institution. So that's kind of how it is. So by using that, we are separating ourselves from the United States, but we are within the United States. So we are the spirit of the United States is the best way to kind of look at it.
Okay.
Thank you for that. And Bob, we just want to know, in like 6 months from now, would you come back to the platform and we get an update from you?
Absolutely, and I will absolutely try to remember. Please help me with that if I get sidetracked. But yes, I would love to come back on.
Well, because you definitely shared a lot of information with us, and we would love those updates from you. So thank you for coming on tonight. And you're also in Florida, right? Because we're in central, we're in Polk County, so we should visit.
I am actually in Maryland at our national headquarters. One of the things that we found out was that to reactivate the Republic, we was actually on the original William Penn Baltimore Trust, and the claimant of the William Penn Trust, and the United States Army is the rightful claimant. We had to give them in the trust a piece of land on those trusts because they are the rightful original claimants pre-United States to facilitate this. And that's why they were born in 1775, pre-declaration. So I am at our national headquarters, which is a 6-acre piece of land south of the Mason-Dixon line and north of what's called the tangent line, which is the 90-degree line from the monument, the mount, or the center point of Newcastle, Delaware, which is the original Penn Trust 90-degree line. So that's where the two, they say the Keystone State, or the right, that's the location where those two trusts fold on top of each other, and that's where Delaware comes out of, that's the location where those two trusts fold on top of each other, and that's where Delaware comes out of as the first state that can never be incorporated. So the piece of land that we have is right there for them, so that they can never be sent overseas again and not have a right to return back.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Well,
that's so interesting.
Bob, thank you so much for coming on. We're definitely going to have you come on in the future. And God bless all the hard work you're doing. We're going to transition now to our state-to-state intel round, and you definitely could hang tight, but you look like you're in a car trying to go somewhere. So.
No, I'm going. So we're still trying to get in like a decent internet setup because it's 6 acres of land and it's kind of out a little bit. So I have to come into town to have like a decent signal because we just don't have great internet out there yet. We're working on it. But so I'm going back to the farm. But I appreciate it. But I'm going to bed. You guys have a good night. Thank you very much.
Oh yeah. We appreciate you so much. We'll be in touch.
We appreciate you so much. So on that note, thank you so much, Bob. On that note, what a crazy night tonight. So we got 2 guest speakers back to back. A lot to talk about in the intel round. Shell, Lori from Arizona, Pastor Wendy. She's getting tired, so I'm trying to engage her for 15 minutes before she leaves us tonight, maybe. And then we got McGaso, we got Dr. Aaron. We also got Ron Nevada.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Good night, Bob.
Have a great night.
And we're going to talk about a lot of things, but Amber, Minnesota also is going to discuss a lot of things that, wow, there was a big murder going on in Minnesota, right? They got a Democrat, we're going to talk about a lot of things. I just want to know, McGaso, what did you think about both of the interviews? One, clearly we're all aligned that a lot of these riots are kind of paid for. They have dark money behind it, organizations that don't really like America first. So, and then the second interview, the sovereignty rights and things like this, really good show tonight. But what's your take on all that? And then Shell, and then Lori, and then both pastors, and then we'll get to what's your take on all that? And then Shell, and then Lori, and then both pastors, and then we'll get to Amber's story about, you know, this crazy stuff that's going on there. You guys are all unmuted. Sorry, our internet connection's been unstable for the last 45 minutes. That's because we have all 3 of our teenagers using the bandwidth, and I blocked them for the last 30 minutes, but my computer's still slowing up. But anyway, Megasa, go ahead. Shell, Lori, Ron, and then we'll see what happens after that. Thank you, guys.
Well, we know about the multiple conspiracies, if you would, around George Floyd and all the different theater that's going around the country. So that was very good. I was glad to hear in the end when she shifted into those topics. The second conversation, I'm honestly a little confused about some of the things that were referenced.
Yeah.
So that requires a little more investigation on my part, because it contradicts or is not in alignment with some of the things that I am involved in or reference. But I'm willing to look into it with an open mind and see what's going on. I yield.
Well, I can probably help you with that second part, Megasa. He was pretty much fall in line with the straw man. I don't know if you have any of those books, Straw Man 1 and Straw Man 2.
Well, no, I've gone through my own sovereignty course. I've been a sovereign for 12 years under my own documentation, studying through various people from David Windmiller and beyond. So I know what he was talking about. I know the structure. I was just not totally in sync with his organization, what it really was, because it seemed like a corporation, didn't seem like a private membership association. It seemed like a religious organization, but there was too many shifts there that I couldn't really put together.
Yeah, my discernment was up on that too, especially when I asked him about that brotherhood question. He seemed very deflective. I don't know. I'm pretty good with my discernment. Tried not to be combative or make him get on the defensive, but at the same time, you know, asking him an honest question. I was getting the same feeling you were, Megasa. But yeah, about that straw man, there's an actual book that was that part about the maritime law and Straw Man 2, that book that I was talking about, it has it all in there. Why he was referencing maritime and all that, it has it in there. Because that was confusing for me too when I was introduced to that. That book that I was talking about, it has it all in there. Why he was referencing maritime and all that, it has it in there. Because that was confusing for me too when I was introduced to that.
When you mentioned brotherhood, like there's 2 different types of brotherhood. There's a spiritual brotherhood, and then there's the other brotherhood. So he did clarify a little bit about being more on the spiritual side of it, but brotherhood still raises the flag.
Yeah, the Masons believe that they're spiritual brotherhood as well.
Well, that was the way they lawfully could form it, either as a divine organization or a fraternal brotherhood.
Yeah.
A social organization.
What's the best book for his common law? Is there a reference there that it's kind of biblical there that we can tap into?
Well, I'm not sure what you're saying, Susan, but common
Well,
law.
just a good reference book on that really, you know,
well, when it comes to America,
what's that?
When it comes to America, we were originally under the Magna Carta, which was a form of common law. And then we were common law in the beginning. So in the beginning, if you would, is really a book about natural law, because the law of nature and the nature's God, that's really common law, common to all people.
Right, I get that, but the language of syntax and how that all plays into it.
Oh, on that topic, what are the pastors' views on this after Susan's comment?
I do not there's a lot that guy said that was off to me. And his 20 years going through a doctorate, PhD in theology, how can I say this? Because I don't want to I don't want to attack the guy, but saying a lot of things.
Okay. Well, I guess the first guest, you guys all like the first guest?
I think she made some I think she had some valid points. I am interested in some of the stuff that she dug up. Like I said, I went on the website. That's why. But she started like she was talking about the next thing that she was doing, and I couldn't really, like, as far as like the spiritual aspect of it. I thought there was some stuff there that maybe was, as far as my theology was not sync with that, if that makes sense. Like I just thought it was.
She's gonna come back, so we could see what those deltas are when she comes back.
She did make some comments that theologically wise, as Mom said, was not right. And I'm not down on her or anything, but little comments about how she's from the stars or from the future and different things like that. What she said, there's those comments. You don't make those comments, out of it. She wasn't joking with it, and so you don't make comments unless there's something going on there, which is what caught my attention.
And that was the only thing. I mean, I think listening to her when she started talking about, Woodstock, and she was talking about Sandy Hook, and she was talking about the George Floyd thing, and she was talking about, not the first time I've heard that. And that's why I asked her.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, exactly. Psyop.
Yeah.
I think they were both interesting.
Yeah,
and I think we all,
definitely.
They teach us all to think outside of the box a little bit. And I think it's good for us to be challenged, because we've got to stretch. We've got perspectives, and challenge ourselves too, because limit our, I don't want to say beliefs, but we just limit because we're still learning. All of us, we're still students here, of Earth and of the Heavenly Father. We're still students, in a lot of ways. I think it's illuminating. We don't have to agree with everybody for sure. Not all of it's going to resonate. That's for sure. But it is interesting to have these things brought in that will, challenge our, expand our thinking a little bit. Yeah.
Well, I have been thinking more about, whether this was all, when she said she didn't get involved in politics anymore because, and I felt like she was onto something there. Not that I won't get involved in it, but I'm very careful because, again, that's why I asked her, do you think this whole thing, they're all in this kind of working this together, and everybody's being the whole psyop thing, and everybody's being played, or is that just like a huge, is that a huge conspiracy theory, or is there something really more to that a lot of us just aren't seeing because we've been brought up with certain beliefs. But as far as anything else that kind of, listen, I'm a believer in the Word of God, period, and so anything else that kind of comes against that, I'm really like that. I'm going to stiff arm that. I'm just not going to let that. I'm not going to let that seed be planted.
So real quick, guys. We need some feedback from Lori, Arizona, and then also we need to hear the story in Minnesota from Amber. But go ahead, Pastor Aaron, you were going to say something, and then Lori, Arizona, share your thoughts, and then we got to hear this story. Go ahead.
The whole psyops thing and them being together, that is something, the government is going to do that. Both sides are going to come together and do some stupid stuff. It's in Revelation. So that is that is it. She was on. Mama's right. She was on with that because that is supposed to happen. That is gonna happen. So, I do want to say that. So that I will give her that. She's catching that, which is good.
I do have a question, and again, I was pretty. What was the purpose? What is the purpose? What is their organization trying to do?
Right. So Megeso could speak to it, and Valerie can after me, and Megeso. But ultimately, there was a guy named David Lester Straight that talks about being a sovereign person, and Megeso also had a big kind of how to be sovereign, and he's going to continue doing these activities. We're going to put that in the schedule, but ultimately, it's pulling America away from the deep state controlled system that's in place, and that's that's the idea of what they're trying to do. Gosh, it's a little bit over my head because, but Megeso could probably fill in a little bit more, and then
a lot of it is just law.
Lori, and then after he answers your question, Lori, Arizona, what did you think about tonight? And then Amber's got to tell us about all the drama going on in her state. Go ahead, Megeso, with the answer.
Yeah, it's more about being a living soul because we're under God's creation and we're under the laws of nature. And as a living soul, we have our natural, unalienable soul. And we're under the laws of nature. And as a living soul, we have our natural, unalienable rights, which are all God-given. And so all these systems that he was talking about are just systems that were created to separate us.
Okay.
And
they help.
So when we navigate the system, we navigate under our own living soul, our own natural ability. And that's where people have kind of lost their way. So
separate us as people, Megeso?
Well, we're sovereign. God is sovereign. And under God, we're living souls, creations of God, right? With dominion over the earth. So when we operate as in our individual self, we're following the laws of nature as we were created by God from the land and of nature's God, which is God's law, which is very simple. And then natural law comes from that. And then from natural law comes common law, which common law is really natural law, but they put it into legalese at that point. So there's very, very few laws that we actually need, because all these other statutes and codes and things like that actually take away our rights that were given to us by God. And what God has given us, no one can take away, and we can't give them away.
These are the premises that our forefathers utilized to create the Constitution and the founding of our nation.
Right. The Declaration was based on the laws of nature and of nature's God. And they were following all through the Revolutionary War. They were connected to divine providence. So they knew where the origin of life came from. And being a small group of people against a massive army, just like David and Goliath, we had to have that faith and trust in the divine providence.
Thank you for that.
Yes, thank you.
Hey, can I add something, Megeso? It might be like something more confusing or might actually add to, but like the thing that I don't understand and never did, especially with the founding fathers and how that correlates to the fallen angels or whatever, all these occults or esoteric, exoteric belief systems, their families are part of descendants of these gods who believe they're carriers of a seed line that gives them a divine right to rule, giving them justification spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, scientifically to dominate the lesser species known as humans. That's what's us. These bloodlines are trained to believe they are descendants of a hierarchy ruling species from the celestial realm that descended in the days of Jared. and came down and procreated with the daughters of men, tracing seed lines to Gilgamesh and until Nimrod. This is what all the dynasties, those family dynasties that we're fighting against, this is what they believe. They have a superiority in their genes. So I just don't understand. That's the part I don't understand.
Well, God gave us dominion over creation. But I don't see anywhere where he said anyone has a divine right over someone else outside of his own hand appointing when he was on this earth. So divine, all people are all men, which includes women and men, in the original meaning of the word men, are created equal. There is always someone who rises into a leadership position in a leadership role, because there are sheep that need a shepherd, as you see. But we still have that individual freedom to follow our own intuition, our own heart-soul connection as individuals. So all these, the founding fathers did have different, quote, religious beliefs, but they all had an inherent belief of one God. So all these, the founding fathers did have different, quote, religious beliefs, but they all had an inherent belief of one God. And they just had different interpretations of what God is, which many religions do, as I understand it, or understand it. And it's not our understanding that we have to worry about, because understanding to me comes from ego. Understanding comes from our heart soul connection to God.
Thank you for that, McGay. Thank you for that, McGay. So, Lori, Arizona, what'd you think about tonight? And give us updates of Arizona, and then Amber is going to give us updates of what's going on in her state with all the chaos. Go ahead, Lori.
Well, the second guest.
Let's go outside.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we're good, Lord.
The second guest, I don't know what bothered me about him is I followed a lot of what he was saying, but I'm a little leery of anybody that says they're part of a brotherhood, just knowing what I do about the Masons and all that. But I did take in everything he said, and I'm going to think about it. And the first guest, I don't know what I thought, but well, I know what I thought or what I expected, but she was a different caliber than what I thought. And I noticed that she said a lot of things about blessing this and bless you and all this, but her language did not reciprocate what she was saying. A lot of F words. I just don't relate that to someone. And I think she had a lot of good points. And I am going to go on her. I copied down her information to go and check her out so I can get a better understanding. Maybe I didn't make it right away because I had a year, so I missed part of it. So that's that. And as for Arizona, I know there's things going on. And I think Phoenix had much more. We had an actual an actual, what am I trying to say? Because it wasn't a riot, but they about 5 miles from my house, and that was very peaceful. They did everything. In fact, sad to say, one of my neighbors actually went down there and touted how proud he was to be a part of it. But it was very peaceful. I know they had some issues in Tucson and in Phoenix, but nothing near what LA had or some of the other cities. So that's all I know tonight.
Thank you so much for that, Lori. Amber, go ahead and give us an update in your state and let everyone know what's transpired since our last meeting. Thank you.
Oh, A lot. Well, I'm sure as everybody knows,
Doge and things like that. So you're seeing a real weakening of those organizations right now. In Hawaii, they had a little problem with advertising No Kings because Hawaii was founded as a monarchy under king and queen, and so they had to rename their protests, if you would. In Hawaii, they had a little problem with advertising No Kings because
appointed by Tim Waltz. So it's a little confusing. So it's only time, I guess, will tell to see how this is going to play
That guy
out.
that did the killing was a radical liberal. The guy that did the killing was a radical liberal.
Yeah.
It was
appointed by like the truth. It must not at this point because there's a lot of
Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth that you just don't know what the truth
Right.
is in today's society and in our with our media? You just don't know what the truth is.
Like the truth, it must not at this
about it, because the guy is like, he's like 6 foot something,
Yeah.
and when you looked on the camera, he and it may have been just an optical illusion, but he didn't look that tall, like from in reference to where the knob was, and it like right where everything was, and so and then they did just a lot of stuff in there that's not making sense. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. So
right.
lot of questions. Yeah. In reference to where the
But did not confront him. I don't know how true that is.
Well, I had heard something about a female officer, if I remember correctly, because he had been, my understanding is he had been at 2 other reps and another senator's house prior. One wasn't home, sitting outside, I guess, must have been waiting. And an officer pulled up and asked him something, and he just didn't acknowledge, just looked forward. The thing is I don't understand, because if he had that mask on, how did they know what he looked like? And Minnesota, I don't see how they got like the Republican, because Minnesota, he just didn't acknowledge, just looked forward. The thing is I don't understand, because if he had that mask on, how did they know what he looked like? And Minnesota, I don't see how they got like the Republican, because Minnesota doesn't notify on what side you
Questions.
right.
Thank you. I guess we'll move to another topic. It's quiet.
It is kind of quiet.
I'd like to reference and TV was hacked, and they were putting on ads.
The nuclear capability, and Trump re-truthed that. Okay, so for our U.S. president to call out Barack Obama today was a big deal to me. I think. Anyone want to comment on that?
Oh, rightfully so. He nailed it.
Yeah, it's been talked about for quite a while.
He was definitely
able to arrest Obama.
I think that's already been done.
Yeah, I do too.
I do too. Yeah.
I think it'll come out probably when we possibly have a sit down time where the military is doing its last rounding up of the low hanging fruits. I think that, you know, if things
Able to arrest Obama.
The Muslim Brotherhood, the hush money to Iran, I mean, all of those things have to be played out. And I think that's what we're witnessing right now. I yield.
Wow, very good points.
You gotta look at a lot of symbology that came out from the Grand Parade. If you go with the Grand Army, President Melania was wearing a white dress, so we'll call that representing the white hats, and she was in front of Trump, walking in front of him, the Queen in front of the supposed king, right? And then when the military came back over with the flag that they said was flown for that parade, for that anniversary, to Trump, and Melania looked to Trump and he said, it's okay. And she moved out of the way. Then he came forward and received the flag. At the same time that I referenced before, is most of the military was dressed in green. So the green representing the earth or the laws of nature, of nature's God from the original Declaration in Constitution. Okay, and she moved out of the way.
And just boldly said something, a catch line of their what is she? I have it written here. Hold on a second. Where does she put it? That they were injecting body like they were making it where we were our body. They're putting materials in people's eyes.
They've been
Yeah.
using some of this capability to track, fish, wildlife. They use it for telemetry communications.
Yeah.
So, when we were called crazy, telling everyone to stay interact with the 5G towers, and that was when the whole China company Huawei was involved, and about this, and how also it's putting metal into your body, and it's coming. We're in a complete the global. I hope we can fight this, but guys, the one topic I'm going to bring up tonight is Trump's global. I hope we can fight this, but guys, the one topic I'm going to bring up tonight is Trump's lot of moving things going on, and Megasa brought up the queen and the king theory and all this. And then let's talk like Red America First does not stand for conflicts unnecessarily. And this, come on, we know we shouldn't be involved in this war.
Not at all. But Trump said just the other day, he's a peacemaker. He doesn't want war. But they can't have that nuclear. Everybody's agreeing to it, but they didn't, they're not negotiating.
Going back to the lady that came out
Actually,
with
you're
this,
breaking up again.
with this stuff, calling out Moderna, Shell. I know we got
I'm
really
sorry,
bad
you broke
internet
up.
today. Shell, can you tell us the name of the guy? Lady, I mean, the name of the lady, Shell.
Yeah, her name is Catherine Austin Fitz. I'll write it down on the little chat thing.
There's a website called the Solari Report.
I know we got really.
It's basically the good news story for all those like the Nephilim and the vampires. This, because at a point in the Satanist, practitioner, whatever you want to call it, right? At a point in which they get farther down, if they're really committed, right? They're not just a surface Satanist, they have to go down a path of either Pyrrhic side or the werewolf side. And then if you're going werewolf side, you get into more of the transhumanism. So he was basically, the idea of this book after I read it was that these beings aren't able to hear the good news, God's good news. Are in your opinion, and do you agree with that it means you're not redeemable? Because that's what this book challenges. It challenges the fact that these things can, or these people, whether they've augmented themselves because they were forced or because of their family, are they still able to be redeemed by Christ?
Good question, because the truth is, if you've ever run into some people that have a lot of the shots, and they talk about COVID and everything, and there's no talking to them. They are so fixated on their belief. There's no getting to them. And people that I knew before, their personalities are changing. So how do you get people to redeem themselves and to repent? They don't feel like they did anything wrong, that there was nothing wrong, with the shots or anything. That's why Trump has to go slow with revealing all of this. There's so many people that haven't woke up yet.
You want to take this first, Aaron?
Okay.
I
So
yield.
there's a lot to unpack there. First of all, the Bible is very clear. God wants all to come
All of this.
out of reach for God's hand to reach them. Nobody. However, God is a gentleman. He's not going to force you to come acknowledge him and come to him. We are given free will for a reason. He allows us to choose. God is the one that places us in hell, but we are the ones who, so in us that we get to stop evangelizing, if we get to stop reaching out to them and trying to get them to come to Christ. The answer to that is a heavy no. Upon the earth, evangelism is still happening. God still expects his kids who are here, his children who are here, to reach out to those who are lost. So at no point are we supposed to stop that. Whatever their belief is, whatever their at is, if we truly love them, we will speak the truth to. If we don't try, we're sinning. We're sinning. So that would be my answer. Is it doesn't matter whether God, it doesn't matter what they believe in that stance. What stance is, do you follow Christ or not? If you do, you need to step out. You need to step out. Because God, don't try, we're
werewolves and transhumanism and all of that. So Jesus Christ came to redeem mankind. However, and he is. And so, and it's like Aaron said, I don't think anybody, because what does he redeem? This flesh is going back to dust, whatever they end up being. And we do know there are angels locked up in Tarsus that Jesus went and said, hey, you know what? I won. I did, this is it. But there is a difference between them and mankind, and whatever kind has done. Vince, now does that mean that the enemy will always try to come back at them with his lies and his deception? But the truth is, he doesn't have any power over them, because Jesus Christ is the name above all names. And then somebody had mentioned that about people waking up and not seeing that they did anything frustrating, and I totally agree. The only thing that occurs to me is that so they, whatever they think, they took the shot and they're not to the world. So like what Aaron said, I would say, if we don't speak to them because we think that, we have to be careful that we're not condemning them. We can do it in action, because the Bible tells us, we know sin from, we know sin, right? We know what sin is and oftentimes what it isn't. But way for us to return to him. So it's like Aaron said, we don't know. We are never to condemn that person and not say something. We always have to be about our Father's business. And because we don't know at the end of the day, God alone is the judge, and they will come.
Mark 5 and Luke 8 talks about a man who had a legion of demons in him. And Jesus was there, and the man confronted him, and Jesus moved freed the man. The demons had to go into pigs, and they jumped into the water. But if that made him, and Jesus was able to free him, and to acknowledge and receive that healing. But the only way to get them there is to keep presenting them with Jesus.
Pastor Aaron, I got one question. So, when you try to win somebody over to the Lord, and they look at you and say,
Amen. Just as I am. Without
I would say this. As the Bible says, they were fed by the word of their testimony, and by the lamb, the word of the lamb, and by the word of the testimony. That's how we're supposed to in growing the kingdom, because he loves you enough to take you as you are, but he loves you so much he won't leave you the way you are. He himself will change you. And so that's why our testimony works, is because it proves we came to God in the state that we were horrible, because he loves you enough, came to Christ, got themselves right first.
Sir. No, sir. I mean, and that's what, that's what the Lord done. He already knew that was going to take place. Even when he was in Mary's womb, he knew everything was going. He knew you and I.
The world is fallen because of our sin. And so Christ did come to redeem all of creation, concerning the physical universe that we have here, because our sin is infecting the world we live in. world is falling because of our pastor's point is going to be I haven't got a name for a title, but it's going to be about worship and praise. And when is it how do we do it, when is it okay, what is it a part of, things of that nature.
8 p.m.
I'm pretty sure a lot of people have heard about the lady that was wanting to commit violence against the president. This was during the no protest here in Raleigh, North Carolina County. So she's a Democrat, and she was filed against her this year. I just don't understand it. I just sent Ashley a picture, and I'll let y'all look at that.
Pulling it up.
I just sent it to you.
Julie Von Hoffen.
That's her.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
So we called, me and a couple of friends called the FBI. We called the Raleigh Police Department. They are already on that case. So she should.
That's something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We were always told rigged for red, rigged for red.
Mm-hmm. About
went into a lot of that stuff, and I think Trump did kind of reference that outside of the Ted Cruz debacle. So,
And then I read that he made up and apologized.
A lot of it.
Yeah.
Well, if he came under the principles of this country, of what it was founded on, and the flag, and especially if you're an immigrant, illegal or illegal, whatever, you respect the nation that you're in. I thought it was interesting. Arnold Schwarzenegger the other day, when they tried to trap him, and he talked about being an immigrant and being
Creating the flag. I think there's to be a minimum 1 year in jail. That's the way I believe. There's so many people that have died for this country, and I don't see it as freedom of speech. I see it as an insult to. I don't think it should be tolerated.
Well, it's actually a crime on the books already in the U.S. codes. It's really a form of sedition, of overthrowing the country that you're in. You're publicly displaying that you don't love your country or respect it.
You should be deported. What way for them to be in jail for a year?
Well, I just thought I'd ask because that's just the way I believe. It's interesting that it's on the books.
You're accountable for overthrowing the unincorporated United States, incorporating it in 1871.
I agree. It doesn't happen, and I know they don't have our Constitution, but yeah, they won't tolerate that in other countries. I don't think we should tolerate it here.
Well, if we do, then we're violating our own principles.
If we do tolerate it, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, that needs to be. I don't think we should tolerate it here.
Well, if we do, then we're violating our own principles.
If we do tolerate it, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, that needs to be emphasized more. Yeah.
Those that are watching,
because everybody's going to say freedom of speech, freedom of.